Call the meeting to order. The Monday, August 12th, 2024 regular meeting of the Paris City Council is hereby called to order at 5:31 p.m. For the purpose of this meeting, there's a quorum of council. We have 5 council members here today. Item number 2, we will have invocation by Mr. Gene Anderson. And item 3, we will have the United States and the Texas Pledge of Allegiance led by Council Member Mickey Ellis. Everyone, please stand.
May we pray? Heavenly Father, we're so thankful that you let us live in this country, and we thank you for the blessings upon our nation and pray that you might continue to do so. We pray for our leaders, whether they're national, state, or local, that you give them wisdom and understanding. And Father, we just pray that everything that we do will make this a better place to live and to serve you. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
You'll join me? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson and Councilmember Ellis. Item number 4 is Citizens Forum. Persons desiring to address the council must limit their presentation to no more than 2 minutes. Unless an item is posted on the agenda, the Texas Open Meetings Act prohibits the council from responding to any comments other than to refer the matter to a future agenda, to an existing policy, or to a staff person with specific factual information. Claims against the city members, council members, or employees, as well as individual persons' appeals are not appropriate for Citizens Forum. If necessary, the council may convene into executive session under Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code regarding any item on this agenda. The public forum is now open.
Mayor, Pro Tem, members of council, my name is Larry Shank. I live at 3765 Dawn Drive. I didn't bring any attachments, any material, any written stuff, any more emails. I'm here still to speak about the COLA, cost of living adjustment for retirees. Very quickly, let me tell you this. It may be a tidbit you didn't know, but you're looking at benefits for city employees. Please know from the information I have been provided that a cost of living adjustment, or COLA in TMRS, a larger portion of the cost of that item is for prospectively helping future retirees more than it is even current retirees. So I ask you to keep that in mind. You can confirm that with Gene, but that's the information I have. Secondly, I just want to tell you this. This is the 4th time I've done this since 2016 for 8 years. And I'm just disappointed. This is not a criticism, but the proposed budget makes no mention, no action with regard to the COLA either way. I would only ask that this council at some point speak and tell the retirees where they stand. We have 1 more year in this opportunity to do this buyback. 1 more year and that's it. Finally, quick story. My Uncle Charlie, great Uncle Charlie, worked for 50 years in a commercial laundry in a major city. When he retired, he received a very nice gold watch, and that was it. This was back when there was no air conditioning. Commercial laundries were very hot. Uncle Charlie worked all those years, only to be forgotten. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shank.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
I'm Stephen Red Holmes. I'm representing the city retirees and current city employees because it will benefit everyone. I live at County Road 43600, house address 146, Paris, Texas. I'm a retired detective sergeant from the city of Paris after 26 years of service. I want to thank each and every one of you on the city council for your service. A lot of folks up here I recognize that have served on other boards and and in the same positions I have, we don't get rich doing it because it's all coming from the goodness of our hearts, and I thank y'all. I'm asking you as good, godly Christian citizens, council members, that I know y'all, I know where your hearts are. I ask you to please pray for these city employees and the retirees. I'm not just asking it for the police department, I'm asking it for all city employees, fire department. When you're at home, somebody trying to break in and harm your wife and kids, you're glad to see the police. Your house on fire, you're glad to see the fire department. Sewer backed up, water line broke. I've seen them out there in shoulder deep water, 20 degrees. I mean, everybody serves you guys. I've never seen anybody back down. We're thankful for our city employees and our retirees, and they've been here. They've served y'all, the ones that's got private businesses. And I had the opportunity to go to work for a private company at times, and I've had the opportunity to go work for state law enforcement back in 1985 for more money and benefits. But I was raised here in Paris. My dad was a police officer for 35 years here, my brother-in-law and sister. We love Paris, Texas, but we got to retain what we've got. I've never seen some of the departments lose employees like we've been doing, and y'all been doing a great job of trying to meet that. But, you know, I was promised, and I was involved too long when we got our city insurance that we thought we was going to have after we retired taken away from us. Some people that are
Mr. Holmes, your time is up. You can just
Okay.
wind it up.
Thank each and every one of you for your service, and please take this under consideration to help retain more employees.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Anyone else?
I'm Tiny Freeland. I live at 804 12th Northeast in Paris, Texas. I served the city for over 20 years. I retired in 06, and I've never got a cost of living raise since I retired. But I just want to say we appreciate your time for doing this, but we'd sure love to have a cost of living raise just like everybody else needs one. Because everything's going up, nothing's going down. Groceries are high, gas is high, and y'all know the economy, what's going on. And we worked and did a good job for the city then. I think the city ought to give us this COLA. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm Wanda Thorpe. I live at 1880 East Washington Street. I worked for the city 24 years in the water department and retired in 2007. And we would appreciate it if you would please consider the COLA for the retirees. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? If there's not anybody else, we will close the citizens forum and we will go to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is approved by a single action of council. If need be, council member can request any single item be removed from consent agenda for consideration. Does anyone on council have an item that you want to pull?
I need to pull number 13.
13.
And the reason being, do you want me to
Yes, go ahead.
address that? The reason being is when we had the meeting, it was in a room where the acoustics were terrible and didn't realize that I was voting on this. I voted a no, and it should have been a yes.
Okay. Anyone else have any other items that they want to pull? Okay, I'll hear a motion to approve the consent agenda with the corrections. So, all right, motion by Mr. Ellis, seconded by Rudy. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? 5-4, 0 against. Now we're down to the regular agenda. We're going to move, I need a motion to move item 17 up to the top because these people need to leave, so I'd like to hear a motion that we move item 17 up.
Make that motion.
Okay, Ms. Norman,
Again.
second. You got it? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, all opposed? 5 for, 0 against. Item 17, we're going to convene into executive session pursuant under Section 551-071 of the Texas Government Code, consultation with attorney to receive legal advice from the city attorney, 1, pending or contemplating litigation, and/or 2, on matters in which the duty of the attorney to her client under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflict with this chapter. It is 5:41, and we will convene into executive session. All right, it's 6:13. We are back in open session. No action was taken. We have a request to move item 16 up. Can I hear a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Kessel, second by Mr. Ellis. All in favor?
Aye.
5-4-0 against. So item 16 is discuss and act on a resolution of the City of Paris, Texas, accepting for filing a petition for establishment of the Forest Brook Public Information District Number 1, calling a public hearing on the advisability of the creation of said district, authorizing the issuance of notice by the city clerk regarding a public hearing, and approving a professional services reimbursement agreement. Staff?
Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, thank you for moving this item up. We have another virtual meeting, this time in the public session, and we have three of the city's consultants. We have Mark McCliney, Chris Settle, and Mary Petty on the line. They have been working with us very closely with staff, and then also the developer for this public improvement district. One of them has to leave at 6:30, so we would, to make the most of their time, we will let you speak with them first, but very quickly. This item is to discuss and act on a resolution of the City of the Paris to accept the filing of a petition for the establishment of the Forest Brook Public Improvement District Number 1. We are not creating this district. We're basically just acknowledging we are receiving your petition. So if you have any questions, or if Mary, Mark, or Chris, if one of you would like to take the lead and lead into this and explain what this is, please, we would appreciate it.
Mary or Chris, do you want me to do that to start with, or do you want to? Very quickly, Mayor and Council, thanks for letting us attend virtually. This is the first legal step in the creation of the Forest Brook PID. The developer is coming to you saying, I want to create a PID. Will you start the process? In order for that to occur, he needs to legally submit a petition, which this is, and we are to accept it and call for a public hearing, which is, I believe, set for the meeting on September 9th, if that's what the council wishes. At that point, the developer, at the public hearing, the public can ask questions. The developer may make another presentation, and it really sets it up for the actual creation. So today is really the first step in creating the shell of what would become the Forest Brook PID. Mary or Chris, anything in addition to that I've slipped or forgot?
No, I think you're good, Mark. This is all statutory components, and then we're, working at the behest of staff to move it forward.
Yep, I agree. I think you hit every point that needed to be hit. Thanks.
While we have our consultants on the line, does anyone have any questions for them specifically that they could help answer?
Any of council have any questions? Well, I would like for them to explain. I know all of council wasn't in on all the meetings, but just to explain that this is of no risk to the city. We will, put money in, but it would be protected. So could you explain that to the rest of council?
Yes, is that the mayor speaking?
Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem. Hi, again, this is Mark McCliney. The way these PIDs are created is to be risk-free as much as it can be for the citizens of Paris. This is going to be a development that will benefit new citizens or new home builders within the PID, or not home builders, home buyers within the PID, and not citizens that are outside of that PID. The residents that move in or buy a property within the PID will pay an extra assessment or tax. It is called an assessment, but it looks like a tax on their homes that if you happen to live across the street from this PID, you would not be paying. There is also an agreement here, the professional services agreement, that has the developer putting in funds to cover the costs of city time and outside consultants' time so that no citizens or city money is used in the creation of this bid. This has to be standalone and not using city funds. We collectively, the city has borrowed money in the open market. This does not affect the city's borrowing ability. No funds from the city can be used to repay this other than the PID assessment paid solely from the people that will be living and owning those properties.
Okay, so just letting council know, there are parameters set in place that the city's investment in this is protected.
And just for clarification, Mark, Mary, and Chris, we are not creating the PID this evening with this petition. We are just acknowledging that we are in receipt of that, correct?
Right, the statute requires, the statute requires that the council has a resolution accepting the PID petition, and then you have to call a public hearing, again, according to the statute, direct staff to publish notice in the newspaper, mail notice to the landowner. Even though the landowner is the one petitioning, it still requires this notice because those are statutory steps. So this resolution simply is directing staff to take care of all those statutory components before we actually have the meeting where we're conducting the public hearing. And then if you choose to act upon that petition, then you would have, additional documentation and additional action to actually create the period at a date in the future. And I think Mark said it was September 6th.
Yeah, September 9th.
It'll be
Ninth,
the
sorry.
first regular meeting in September.
I have a question. In the event that we go forward with the PID, how would we address if the developer defaults?
So there's a couple of items. So in your September 9th meeting, you would also have an item that's called an escrow agreement with a dissolution petition. So a PID is created by petition. It's also dissolved by petition. And so there would be a dissolution petition that would be held in escrow that triggers or identifies triggers under which the council would be able to dissolve the PID if the developer did not perform or did not accomplish certain components. Now, we're working on a development agreement. That development agreement will outline the parameters and responsibilities that the developer would have to stay in compliance with all sorts of things, development standards, building materials, setbacks, things of those nature. And then in return, the council would be willing to levy an assessment, and we're working through those details. And so once you get past the PID creation, once you get past the development agreement and you're moving into the actual development, there's an assessment placed on the property. In the event the developer doesn't perform, i.e. doesn't complete the infrastructure, it depends on where you are in that process. If all you've done is levied assessments on the property, then the property is burdened with the assessments, but it also has the right for the reimbursement to occur to a developer. So oftentimes you'll have another developer step in. If you have issued PID bonds on those particular property for that particular assessment, if there's a default, i.e. the developer doesn't complete, those investors have a presumption that the city will step in and foreclose on the property, but the city doesn't want to own the dirt. The bond investors don't want to own the dirt. And so again, you are looking for a developer to step in. And so as Mark said earlier, there's not a risk to the city. It's not your dollars. It's not your land. It's not, your contracts for construction. They're all the developer's components. You're covenanting in the event you issue debt that you would foreclose and then provide an opportunity for another developer to step in and complete the project.
Yeah, so all of this is on Nathan Spalding, Forest Brook Estates. This is their project. We're just trying to help them with this PID. Any more questions? All right, thank you, Mary, Mark, Chris, for clarifying everything and making it so clear to us. We need a motion, right?
I would, if you don't mind. Nathan Spalding is here this evening, and if you have any questions for him, he could come up and speak. I believe I see him in the back there.
Yeah. Y'all have any questions for Mr. Spalding? Nope, no questions. Okay, so we will entertain a motion on item 16. Motion by Mr. Ellis, and second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Kessel. All in favor, sign of aye. Aye. All opposed? 5-4, 0 against.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, appreciate it. Okay, item 15. Conduct the second public hearing on a request for disannexation for property located on around County Road 22500, south and west of Kimberly Clark Plant, LCAT parcel 71112, 71113, and 70422, and 70423, within the city limits of the city of Paris. Staff.
This is the disannexation petition that we've talked about here for at least 2 meetings. And this is the second required public hearing on this. You just have to have the public hearing. It is not an action item.
All right, I will open the public hearing and ask for anyone wishing to speak about this item to please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon, City Council. My name is Garrett Peters. I am not a resident of Lamar County or the City of Paris. I live in Rockwall, Texas, in Rockwall County. But I am here to speak as a consultant for the organization or the applicant, Nexus Renewable Power, the company that is developing the MRG Goody Solar Project. I wanted to give some context for where we're at in the process. As Ms. Harris mentioned, this is the second public hearing. So a few months ago, we submitted a application requesting disannexation for this set of parcels that is southwest of the Kimberly Clark plant, southwest of Paris, Texas. It is a 1,500 acre development made up of approximately $200 million of a solar project, but a total $240 million investment when you include the battery project that is to be constructed as well. For this 1,500 acres, we found during the due diligence that a small portion of the project is actually within the Paris city limits. Of the 1,500 acres, that is 170 acres owned by Mr. Robert Moore, which is what drove the decision to ultimately submit the disannexation request. That disannexation request was submitted for several reasons, but the chief one being the special use permit that is required by the city of Paris for solar development inside city limits that has quite a bit of regulation associated with it, whereas the remainder of the project is in Lamar County and is not subject to this regulation, but it is subject to a different set of regulations. And so what we would summarize this as is building a house to code and then building the bathroom to a different code. It creates a weird design dilemma where we have to go back and redesign certain portions of the project and create significant delays and not meet our construction timelines, along with the big issue of the special use permit is the setback. There is a 400-foot setback required in that special use permit. The developer and the project have already committed to a 50-foot setback, which is above the industry standard, and it creates quite a nice buffer between the project fence and the actual project. Having 50 feet is more than enough room to drive emergency vehicles, both ways, multiple vehicles next to each other. 400 feet is pretty onerous, and additionally, it would render most of Mr. Moore's land not capable of solar development. 400 feet, as we've showed in some of the figures and graphics, eliminates most of the arrays or blocks that we would plan to build in that area. So what that brings us to is in our proposal, we tried to sum up and estimate the total property tax revenues that would be driven by this acreage or by the improvements to be placed on this acreage if the project was to be built over a significant period of time, and that totaled $768,000. And in the proposal, we offered to pay that total amount at its present value of approximately $300,000 over the next 18 months compared to $768,000 over the next 30 years. So that proposal has been presented to the city. We're at our second hearing, and really what we'd just like to have is maybe a little bit of feedback to see where we're at in the process. I know that we've spoken a little bit about the things we want to do for the trail. I think that's very helpful to note that Mr. Moore's land had the path of the trail was going to intersect through the land. So we actually released some of that acreage back to Mr. Moore for him to then deed to the Greater Paris Development Foundation to be used in that trail. And additionally, we are committing to preparing that land, that 4.166 acres, for the trail as well. We're obviously going to have a lot of equipment on site for the solar project, and so we felt that it would be in our best interest and everyone's to use some of that equipment to prepare this land for the trail. And we estimate that will greatly accelerate the development of that portion of the trail, and we're pretty excited about that. So that's what I wanted to speak about. I can let others speak, of course, but I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Why is the depreciation schedule so high, or why does it depreciate so fast on solar panels?
Yeah, that's a great question. So solar property in the state of Texas is governed by Section 2326 of the Texas Property Tax Code. And that section states that a solar project may not be below 20% within its first 10 years of operation, and it is to be valued using a 10-year useful life. And so in most cases, what you'll see a developer or economic development do is they'll just take straight line depreciation and depreciate the project down about 8 to 10% per year. You'll notice there's a couple of things we did in our analysis to combat that and make it more conservative. Number one, we did not depreciate the property at all in the first year, which is untrue. I mean, it will be depreciated by the appraisal district in year one. We also took an analysis of other projects that Lamar County Appraisal District has valued here in Lamar County, and we found depreciation rates significantly greater than 10% per year, some 15, some 20%. And so that we felt that our presentation of 100% in year one and then dropping 8.5% per year was very conservative compared to what we were seeing kind of out in the marketplace by the Lamar County Appraisal District. Did that answer your question?
It does.
Any more questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak during the public hearing? Okay, we will close the public hearing. Council, do y'all have any more comments to make on this item? Okay, no action is required here. So we will move down to item 19. Receive presentation from the interim city manager on finance director, discuss and provide direction on the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget for the city of Paris. Turn it over to staff.
Actually, Mayor Pro Tem, I don't know how many people are here for item number 20. Are there quite a few? If there's only one, I'm sorry. I was just trying to do the best thing for the group, but we'll go ahead and move forward because my presentation is lengthy. So.
I think there are many people here on the item for the Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah, let's go ahead and move that up. If you don't, is that all right?
Yeah, just take the motion.
Okay. Somebody give us a motion to move item 20 up.
So moved.
All right, moved by Mr. Kessel, seconded by Ms. Norman. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we will move item 20 up in front of 19. Item 20 is discuss and act on a resolution donating certain property adjacent to the Boys and Girls Club of the Red River Valley, a nonprofit corporation, to said club for public use as authorized by Texas Local Government Code, Section 253-011, and in accordance with the terms thereof, and authorize the mayor to execute a deed without warranty, subject to a certain lease between the city and River Valley Fair Association to effectuate such donation. Staff?
As all of you are aware, the Boys and Girls Club operates a facility located at 1530 Northeast First Street, at which it provides childcare, recreational, and sports programs benefiting children, youth, and families of Paris and the surrounding area. These services that the Boys and Girls Club provides are essential to these families and provide a public purpose. The facility that they are in now, they've outgrown it, and they have asked for the city to donate property directly behind the club to the east to the club for expansion purposes. On December 14th, 2020, the Boys Club leadership came and made that request, and the city council voted to donate that property, on which there are 2 baseball fields that aren't in use anymore, subject to some requirements in the law, and to subdivide that portion, that property, because it was part of a larger tract. So that was in 2020. You know, here we are almost 4 years later. The Boys and Girls Club is ready to go ahead with that capital campaign to raise the money for that expansion. There are some complications with the specific property because at various times it has been under lease to the Boys and Girls Club and to the Red River Valley Fair Association. The Red River Valley Fair Association has leased and continues to lease the portion to the far east of the club, which is the field that was known as Reese Field. They use that for parking. At one point, they both had a lease on it. Both organizations did, and the Boys and Girls Club used it during baseball season, and the Fair Association used it in fair season for parking. At some point, the Boys and Girls Club gave up that lease, and in about 2006, the city moved that property into and included it in the main lease that the fairgrounds has for the main fair property. So any conveyance of that property is going to have to be subject to that lease. And that lease is supposed to expire at the end of the year in 2027. There's not a similar issue with the portion that's closer to the club. We worked those things out. We worked with Sydney Young, who is a board-certified real estate attorney, and came up with the best way to do that conveyance is a no warranty deed. We're not warranting anything, but it's subject to that lease, and then there's a provision in the law, in the local government code, that says a municipality can essentially donate land to a nonprofit for a public purpose, because you start back at the principle that the city can't just be giving government property away to people. But this local government code provision says that you can do that for a public purpose, but the deed has to say that if the grantee, the person that we're giving the property to, ever ceases to use that for that public purpose, it has to automatically revert back to the city. So the idea being that that property will always be used for a public purpose. So what we have provided for you here today is a resolution that approves that donation the city council had wanted to do back in 2020, and approves the deed and authorizes the mayor to sign that deed.
All right, thank you, Ms. Harris. Is there any discussion from council on this?
They were promised 4 years.
Speaking to you, Mike. Speaking to
I
you.
think if they were promised 4 years ago, we need to make it good.
Well, and, you know, there are several factors that went into it taking this long. They had to subdivide the property. That's been done. I think that they kind of had some fits and starts about when they wanted to do their campaign. We had to do the research on the leases, and that's why that took so long, but we're ready to do it now.
So did the Fair Association have any complaints about this?
We have not talked to the Fair Association, but they're not going to be able, the Boys and Girls Club are not going to be able to use that Reese Field portion of the property.
Okay, so
and I've been told they don't need it for their current plans.
They don't.
So in 2027, we'll work that out. And what they were using that for was simply overflow parking.
Yes.
And it may be they don't need it anymore. We'll just talk to them closer when the time comes.
Yeah, the Boys and Girls Club does have plans, and it's you know, we know the people they serve. It's a great establishment, a great entity for our youth, and so we need to try to help them out if we can in whatever way. And I think council was voted unanimously back in 2020 to go ahead with this, so.
And the city hasn't used that property in decades. You know, it's
No.
just been under lease to these various entities.
They actually thought they owned the property until they discovered that the city still owns that property. They were in like a 100-year lease. So I will hear a motion.
Move to approve item 20 as presented.
Okay, Moved by Mr. Kessel, seconded by Ms. Norman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-4, 0 against. Okay, we will go back to number 19 unless somebody wants to move up something else. All right, we will go to number 19.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. This,
go
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
This is the presentation, as you had announced earlier, for the proposed fiscal year 24-25. Myself, Gene Anderson, and Grayson Path, before he left, put a lot of work into this. Just for ways of introduction, again, we will be presenting the proposed 24-25 budget. We are here to answer those questions posed by council, and as you see, staff, a lot of the department heads and managers are here this evening to answer any questions that you might have. The topics of the presentation this evening is going to be a summary of the memorandum that you received last Friday, a summary of the department budgets, and we will go over the next steps. We have a timeline that we will discuss at the end of the presentation. So this will be the first time that you will see this, but this will definitely not be the last time. One request would be is that if any city council member requests changes be made to the budget, staff request that their clarification be clear, and then also that there be a motion and a vote. On August 8th, I submitted the city council, interim city manager submitted to the city council a memorandum containing the proposed 24-25 budget, which has been prepared in compliance with the city charter, specifically section 19 and 38. This memorandum is designed to fulfill the requirements of the City of Paris Charter, Article 5, entitled The Budget, sections 42 through 45, and had the following exhibits attached. Exhibit A was the proposed revenue for fiscal year 24-25. Exhibit B was the proposed expenditure for 24 and 25, payroll, debt, pay scale, and Exhibit F being the organizational chart, and that is what is found in your big 3-ring binder. For the property tax, the maintenance and operation, which is referred to as M&O, the tax rate and the debt service rate are decreasing in fiscal year 24-25. We have the last 4 years, 21-22 through 24 and 25, and you can see the differences. The proposed fiscal year 24-25 tax rate is, to the best of our knowledge, in compliance with the Texas Property Tax Reform and Transparency Act of 2019. The debt service rate is decreasing due to the payoff of the CIRMA loan in 2012, and the city's M&O property tax levy is budgeted to reflect the voter approval rate, which is 0.30373, and this is a decline of 0.018. The balance of the operational funds. Proposed 24-25 budget consists of 69 separate funds, the vast majority of which are special purpose funds, which means the funds are restricted for special use, or the bonded indebtedness funds. The city's primary operations function out of 4 specific funds, 1, 3, 10, and 45. And you can see listed below, 1 is the general fund and the general fund reserve, with a net total of $34.182 million. Airport fund, general fund transfer, and you see the net, and then the water and sewer fund at $22 million. The use of reserve to balance an operational fund must be done with great care, and please see the executive summary, page 3 and 4, for explanation. Basically, you do not want to use the general fund reserve fund it could interrupt or threaten our 4-month minimum reserve if we extend that too far. Financial policy. The mission of the City of Paris is to serve with professionalism and integrity, promote a safe and prosperous community for all citizens, and provide efficient and effective services for an excellent quality of life. The priorities of the proposed 24-25 budget: police department pay increases, City Council strategic plan, the wastewater treatment plan, utility rates, property tax levy, employee pay and benefits, rising cost, capital projects and purchases, reclassification of 2 employees, and the creation of a new employee position, maintaining operational services, Tax Property Tax Reform and Transparency Act of 2019, or Senate Bill 2, and a street mill and overlay project using existing GO bond funds. For the budget message, Resolution 2023-02, it's the vision, mission statement, and goals for the City of Paris, intended to guide the City of Paris for the next 10 years. The 5 primary goals that Council created was enhance the city's relationship with key state and county representatives. Number 2 is to encourage economic development through business development and retention planning. 3, promote long-term growth in the community. 4, retain our citizens. And finally, 5, market the city. Specifically speaking to the wastewater treatment plant, utility rates, and property tax levy, construction of the wastewater treatment plant is a necessity. It must continue. We're currently in phase 1. They are approximately 6 months behind. They are hoping to gain 3 to 4 weeks at a minimum as they're adding more staff to the construction site. Phase 2, spoke with Garver today, and I also spoke with Josh. Could start as early as September, or maybe fiscal year 24-25. City Code A10.004, planned rate increases from 4/1/21 to 4/1/26 to cover debt service payments for bonds. And we are, of course, aware of the impact to residents through rising utility bills. Steps that the city have taken to try and alleviate this rising impact to tax ratepayer. Staff is always seeking for efficiency in practices and expenses. A refund and restructure of the GO bond series in 2013 to save approximately $1 million each year to reallocate to the wastewater treatment plant debt payment services. We may now have the option of pursuing commercial paper loans for phase 2 due to the amount of debt that we now have, which is similar to a line of credit to help with interest rates. We did not raise water rates in 2023, nor did we raise them in 2024. And identifying bad debt accounts, example, the City of Toco, Route 40, and bringing them into compliance and thus generating new revenue. Community development and PEDC working to add industrial, retail, commercial, and housing to the community. And of course, Public Works installing new water lines to make shovel-ready industrial sites on the loop. Excuse me. At the city, our greatest assets is our employees. And public services are, of course, labor intensive, and it's very critical to hire and retain quality staff to serve our community. And employee pay has been an issue in the past, and City Council has implemented several measures to address this. Some examples are changing from 6% and 12% TMRS to 7 and 14. Comparable pay plan, bringing the entire city up to comparable communities. The overhaul of police and fire seniority scales, eliminating overlap between the ranks. COLAs in each of the last 3 budget years at 2% each. The Paris Firefighters Relief and Retirement Fund to TMRS. Dropped the city's contribution from 14% to 5.1%, which was then the TMRS rate, and employee contribution from 16% to 7%. It also increased the city's debt payment, but ultimately terminates growing unfunded liability. And then PERF was 28% funded, now fully funded and frozen, eliminating city's future unlimited growing liability and securing retirement future for fire staff. And lastly, health insurance, the city contribution increased from $565 a month to $595. And for all those things, the employees definitely thank you. The proposed adjustments in fiscal year 24-25 is a 2% cost of living adjustment for full-time positions, a $25 a month increase in the city's monthly contribution for health insurance from $625 to $650. And in lieu of number 1, the police department sworn officers will see an increase as described in priority 1 of this executive summary. And a comparable pay study has once again been included in the budget. And the city is working with a consultant to advertise for bidding its health insurance program for 24-25 in pursuit of a more favorable policy for employees and maybe even savings. Street mill and overlay projects, we do have GEO bond from 2017 and 18. We have approximately $2.2 million left for streets that we could use. We will have used $1 million in reserve funds from the fiscal year 23-24, and put that together, we have $3.2 million for a mill and overlay project across town for fiscal year 24-25. Staff is working on a list of streets, and we hope to have that to you, say, in the next month and a half, have those streets identified. And we will focus primarily on arterial streets. And again, staff will be bringing that list to you for your review. For replacement programs for police cars and EMS, we have it in place, but we do not have a fleet improvement program specifically for fire apparatus. One, it's expensive, and we do have an aging fleet. We currently have a replacement on order for a 1996 ladder truck that we have at Station 1. It was ordered in the fall of 2023, and it has an expected delivery date of approximately 2.5 plus years. It could be here as early as January 2026. It could be a little later. But it has a $2.2 million estimated cost. For the funding mechanism, $1.5 million in fiscal year 21-22 from revenue surplus that had been set aside into a CD. An existing 10-year loan, issued a new loan for that. So we still need to create a replacement program for the remainder of fleet, but this will help start us towards that goal. Rising costs, increased not as steep as they were in 22-23. However, nevertheless, market inflation impacts our services that we provide almost in every department. Doing the same amount of work today costs less than it did last year and the year before. Budget accounts adjust to accounts for these rising costs. And when we have our individual meetings and we go through a little bit more in depth, we look at line by line, we can pull some of those out. But in general, most departments have increased at least a little bit for cost of living. Capital projects and purchases. One-time expenses necessary for the implementation of services, i.e. vehicles, studies, capital investments or improvements, etc. And if you look in your executive summary on page 15 to 16, you'll see a full list of those capital projects or capital purchases. And some of these are being funded via ARPA, CARES, and Reserve Fund. New position. As an organization, we should constantly be looking for better ways of providing our services effectively, efficiently, and timely. Over the years, we have added several new positions, and each one has proven him or herself to be indispensable in the addition to our operations and promoting greater effectiveness, efficiency, and responsiveness to our community. The examples are listed below: Assistant City Manager, Director of Planning, Community Development, IT Manager, Airport Manager, Dispatch Supervisor, Police Community Outreach Officer, Assistant Building Official, Assistant Fire Official, Public Information Officer, and this year we added a second permit tech to the Building Department. And we have been extremely purposeful in our decisions regarding the creation of new positions and the cost-benefit ratio that they bring. This year, we are recommending the reclassification of two individuals, Mr. Bill Lowranger with Parks and Recreation Superintendent to the Assistant Public Works Director. Bill's been here with the city for 24 years and has many skills. He's currently a superintendent, but he has many skills and abilities, and we believe that it would be beneficial to not only the Public Works, but also the city to reclassify his position. Excuse me. The second is reclassify Brian Dabbs from Informational Technology Technician to Network Security Supervisor. Mr. Dabbs has not been here quite 24 years, but in the short time that he has been here, he has been very impactful to IT, and he does have a lot of history in cybersecurity, so we would like to take advantage of that and take care as we move as an organization to be more tech savvy and tech heavy. We want to make sure that we protect our investment, because if IT goes down, our work could stop. We definitely don't want that. So those are two jobs that we're looking at, or two positions we're looking at reclassifying.
Excuse me, on that slide right there.
Yes, sir.
Two questions. So are you talking about An additional job? You talking about creating a job for them and then replacing their old position?
Just reclassifying.
Reclassifying that
Yes.
job? Okay.
For the one position that we are looking to create, it is a new utility billing clerk. As we have an increased call volume, and we want to make sure that we maintain good customer service.
You said increased call volume?
Yes, sir.
Is the city growing?
Somewhat, yes, but a lot of it is because of the sewer rates and the water rates. So we are having more calls come in than we have had in the past.
So we need to create a whole nother position to answer calls?
Answer phone calls?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know about that one, but go ahead.
The primary goal of the budget is to comply with the financial policy and provide the services expected by the citizens of Paris. And city staff continue to do a great job of being frugal, consistent, and conscientious of the taxpayer dollar. Staff believes that the line items in the proposed 24-25 budget accurately reflect the true cost of providing these services as accurately as we can predict. And the proposed budget is designed to provide the greatest amount of operational services to the citizens of Paris while carefully monitoring the impact of the property tax rate and other revenue streams. Senate Bill 2, was approved in 2019, and its first impact was felt in 2021, and its comprehensive amendment to municipal budgets. Among other things, the greatest impact is the restriction of the maintenance and operational property tax growth down to 3.5 each year. If the city proposes to raise the M&O property tax levy by more than 3.5 from last year, it could possibly trigger a public election. The debt service property tax levy is unaffected by Senate Bill 2 and highly recommended by the city that the city pursue the 3.5% cap each year when needed in order to keep up with the rising cost of doing business. To fall behind could eventually be irreversible. And utilizing this 3.5% growth each year allows for steady and healthy increases to keep up with the rising cost versus drastic last-minute increases that could have been avoided. And in no way is staff recommending an arbitrary increase of the 3.5% each year, but rather, given that the legislation has already acted to limit the growth to a modest 3.5%, the city should use this when necessary to keep up with the long term. Property valuations, they have been increasing year after year. Going back to 2020, you can see the different values. The city of Paris is proposing an M&O property tax rate that is less than last year and proposing a debt tax rate that is less than last year's due to the retirement of the 2012 CIRMA loan. Exhibit A provides a thorough breakdown of all the revenues. Significant general fund revenues are as follows. Property tax is 8.2, sales tax approximately 10.8 million. Franchise fee, street use fee, for example, Encore, Atmos Gas, Suddenlink, private sanitation, cards, water, sewer, 3.5 million. City sanitation fee is 1.7. That is the total of the bill that cards, now our trash or sanitation services, pays us, and then we pay them back a certain portion of that for tipping fees. EMS and county agreement is 4.1 million. Water and sewer admin fee, 1.3. And other significant revenues are airport, fuel and rent, just under 1 million. Sewer fees, 12.6, and water fees at 8.6.
How long is the cards contract? Is that negotiated every year or how, or that?
Ed Wayne's not here. I believe it's 3 years. I'll have to get a copy of that. I don't have that in front of me. Expenditures, if you look, Exhibit B provides a thorough breakdown of all expenditures. This is all of the operating departments from City Council on down to CIP Sewer, which is the last one. Of course, you have contingency in there, but you can see all of the proposed 24-25 budgets in the far right side.
Just on one, what is it, item 13, I think it is, city attorney. Now, could you break down what all that entails? Salary and what else? I know, city attorney's salary, but doesn't it entail the prosecutor's salary and all that?
We have, I have a paralegal as well. We have a line item for outside counsel that includes the outside prosecutor. And a lot of that, library and computer-assisted research is very expensive for lawyers because they have a captive market and not that many people provide it. So, and then there are just our share of taking care of the building, electric, grounds, those sorts of things, insurance, various different things.
All right, thank you.
And again, when we meet individually or in smaller groups or even the workshop, this is not a line-by-line examination, but when we do meet in smaller groups, we will definitely be able to do that. Capital outlay through the use of Water and Sewer Fund, Airport Fund, ARPA, and CARES, the surplus general fund. We have proposed a series of capital purchases for fiscal year 24-25. Again, on page 15 and 16 of the executive summary. The significant expenses include continuation of the water filtration replacement program. We liked it so much we put it, well, I'm sorry, it's not on there twice. The continuation of water meter replacement program, two very different programs. Purchasing a Vector Ramjet truck, several replacement vehicles for different departments, specialty equipment, and constructing storm flow overflow basins to help with flooding and drainage in town, and then the Belford property parking lot. Department budgets. The following slides are high-level overview of each operational department budget, comparing the 23-24 to the 24-25 budget, pulling out key factors for differences in the overall budget. Primary factors that affect all budget, the budget priorities, council strategic plan, capital outlays and improvements. Some of these, again, are funded via revenue resources or surpluses, ARPA, and or CARES. Employee pay and benefit changes. We've talked about the reclassification of positions or creating a new position. Rising cost, maintaining services, and market inflation. We have gone through all line items, examined historical trends, and adjusted up and down as the case is required. And this is not a line item by line item presentation. However, staff are available and here this evening to try to answer those questions if needed. City Council, start with your department. 2024 was $190,500. 2025 or 24-25, it is $200,000, an increase of $10,000. The reason for that increase is there's a city manager search with associated cost and a comparable pay study in this year's fiscal year budget. City Manager Department 12 went from $762,000 to $836,000. It was increased by almost $74,000. Primary reason is the ACM position remains in this budget, but note that this position may or may not be filled by the city manager, by the new city manager. And other expenses include typical office expenses, communications, travel, etc. City Attorney, we talked briefly about that. There's actually a decrease, $1,537 from last year. No significant change, and as Stephanie mentioned, she's got the prosecutor contract, delinquent tax attorney fees, legal material books, and typical offense expenses. Municipal Court, we have a increase of $21,722. Primary reasons, basically employee pay and benefits. City Clerk, we have an increase of $11,730, going up to $230,801. Primary reason, employee pay and benefits. Accounting and Auditing, we have a decrease by $2,258. No significant change. There's one capital project, and that's to bring flagpole and flags back to City Hall, and that will be spent out of or paid for out of revenue surplus. Police Department, you have a $573,143 increase. This could be higher if the council chooses to increase the proposed salary higher than the 66, which is in the current proposed budget. Primary reason, employee pay and benefits increase, priority made by City Council. The capital projects is alert, equipment and training, that is active shooter training and equipment, dispatch EMD software, drone, SWAT equipment, vest, patrol office, a rehab, and I believe some furniture. Increased building repairs such as HVAC and maintenance service agreements for new technology. And then other expenses include training, uniform expenses, vehicle, animal control pound, insurance, 3 new patrol vehicles, which is, I believe, in their typical rotation, and surveillance cameras, which will be purchased using ARPA funds.
Rob, this is probably not the time to bring it up, and you can direct me, but I would like to see the police salary higher than what it is. I'd like to propose that.
Is, just for clarification, is that something that the council feels all agrees with?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm in favor of it, but coach us a little bit on the budget. So if we increase it and we get 5 extra police officers, what does that do to our budget?
Gene, would you mind, did you hear the question?
No, repeat, please.
If we raise it, we raise the salary and we hire 5 additional officers, what does that do to the budget? Because currently, there are no positions, any positions that are not filled have been unfunded in this budget as it sits right now.
Yeah, the way the budget is laid out currently, the ordinance allows for 40 police officers, people at the entry or the low rank. We currently have 26 of those positions filled, or 14 vacancies. The budget as it's proposed raised their salary from $56,000 to $66,000, and there's been the suggestion to raise it to $70,000. So for if you took their salary, you can add about 25% or so to get what the related benefits would be: Social Security, insurance, retirement, and so forth to that. So I don't have a calculator with me, but you've got some sense of what the base is, and add about 25% will give you the cost of one officer.
So if that's an extra 500,000, then where would that extra 500,000 come from?
What I had suggested, I had a meeting last week, and part of that discussion was with the mayor, that if we go to that, raise the salary, that we might have to go to the de minimis tax rate. The de minimis tax rate is a provision, it's an exception in Senate Bill 2 for cities 30,000 and under, that they are allowed to raise or set a rate that will raise taxes in the amount of $500,000 without being subject to a vote to roll that rate back. So $500,000 with our proposed, well, the de minimis rate calculation that's in the packet that you were given would raise that much money. And we will have to, at some point, build that up from where it's at, because if you were to read on page 6 of the transmittal budget letter that's in your budget document, Grayson talked then about, in the past few years, he has, for vacant positions, rather than fund them, he has used that money to improve the salary and the benefits of the police officers. That's also how he balanced the budget that you have before you. He didn't fund the vacant positions. So if the increased salary level brings us more people in, and that's what we would expect, that we will need that de minimis rate to bring in the extra money, to increase, to actually pay that. Like I say, I know Rob talked to Grayson about that in particular, where the money would come from. He said to the effect that he would get it out of the budget somewhere.
Yes.
He didn't specify exactly where. But I've been through the budget in detail, especially over this weekend. I looked at both the expenses and the revenues. There's not much expense that you could cut out of it, nothing approaching that dollar amount. So I don't think you can provide enough money to actually pay those salaries without raising the tax rate to that de minimis rate.
So, and I think, or coach me if I'm understanding you correctly, Gene. So you're talking about we'd have to change to this other structure to make up for the additional amount, but so I hope we get all the police officers we can. I just want to understand, if we do get 5 or 10 extra police officers, where does the money come from for those extra ones for the salaries?
Okay. Well, that's what I think we'll have to raise the tax rate sufficient to do that.
But that would be after the fact, after we approve the budget, correct? So we
Well,
couldn't.
my recommendation would be that when we go through our budget and tax rate hearing process, that the rate that we propose to raise the funding to is that de minimis rate, which is about 2 cents higher than what the no new revenue is. And like I say, it'll bring in about $500,000. I had a conversation with the chief late last week, or this weekend one, I can't remember which, about how many officers that he thought he could probably hire in the next fiscal year. And he thinks, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, that he could get 6 or 7. I asked that same question to Sandy Collard to see how many she thought, and she gave me the same answer. You can't just go out and hire policemen like you can most of the other employees, because they have to take the civil service test and get through that. If they're uncertified, they have to wait for a police academy to come along before they can even start. And I think, what do you have, 2 of those a year?
We have to bounce around the state to find academies, but we can find one or 2.
Okay, all right. So, those 2 things slow the hiring process down for police officers. That's not the case in non-civil service employees. So that's why we don't think we can go out and just hire 14 people and get them in, get them started. We think the most we could probably do is half that number.
This is the 4th year we've done a COLA, correct? Okay. How do we know we can approve the COLA continuously? Or, how we're comfortable in this year, but what makes you feel good about this year that we can approve that?
You're talking about just for the general employees?
General employees.
Yeah. I know Mr. Path worked on that part of the budget, and it's included in the numbers that are in your budget proposal there. So, like I say, I didn't work on that specifically. He did.
And the comparative pay analysis, when would that start for the new? When would we have that information as far as?
We would perform that after the budget was passed, and we would have that for next fiscal year.
The next. And when's the last time we did a comparative pay?
3 years ago, 2 years ago?
About 3 years ago, maybe 4 now. Before the time we get the new one, probably.
Thanks.
So, Gene, if we raise, you heard council say we'd like for it to be even higher than what's budgeted, is that going to create, and we're maybe adding 6 or 7 officers over the next year, is that creating a real problem for the city as far as funding?
Well, if the council's willing to go ahead and set the tax rate at the de minimis rate, yeah, I don't think it will be an issue if we hire 6 or 7. I think we'll have the money for that.
Okay, thank you.
But if we hire 6 or 7 the year after that, I think you're going to be in the same spot. You're going to need to do a similar de minimis tax rate to get us up to that staffing level and that revenue level to pay for that larger staff.
So the difference between the de minimis and the regular tax rate increase is about 500,000?
Well, the de minimis, by definition, is going to be $500,000. That's what the rate is designed to raise exactly. Of course, the no new tax rate brings in the exact same amount of tax dollars. The other rate that we have to calculate is the voter approval rate, and the voter approval rate is the most the tax rate can be without being subject to a vote by the public, to roll that back. Okay. The difference this year between the no new tax rate and the voter approval rate is a little over a penny on the rate. You get up to the de minimis rate, it's little over another penny, So in other words, a penny's going to bring in $254,000 roughly.
Going from the maximum we can do without the de minimis to going to the de minimis will be an additional 200-something thousand. Is that right?
About $250,000 more. I like it when I can see you when we're talking. It's driving me crazy sitting there.
Any more questions for Mr. Anderson? Okay, turn it back over to, were you through?
Oh, no, sir.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Turn it back over to you. Mr. Vine.
And to answer the question on cards, it is a 5-year contract.
Okay, thank you.
Fire department, we have a $300,000 increase. Primary reason, employee pay and benefits. Their capital projects is radios, a fire marshal vehicle replacement, Fire Station 1, their kitchen will get an update if approved, and furniture. Other expenses include training, uniform expenses, gear, bunker gear, air packs, insurance, third-party agreement for equipment, fire truck financing, and we are looking to purchase a hazmat suit, bay heaters, and a fit test regulators out of ARPA funds. Community Development, Department 40, we have a decrease of 51,000, just under 52. No primary reason, just that's the way that that budget fell this year. We're only replacing one work truck. Typical expenses, office expenses, grant match for the home program, and facade grant funding for HPC. Main Street Department, we have a $43,000 decrease. Primary reason, there's no significant change in that department. It is a one-person department right now. Other expenses include travel, promotional activities, downtown festivals, maintenance downtown, and of course, farmers market. Code enforcement increased $213,000. Primary reason is employee pay and benefits, and increase to house demolition and lot mowing funding. Typical office expenses, postage, fuel. For capital, it's truck for a code enforcement official and truck for the abatement crew. Engineering, we see a $336,000 increase. Primary reasons that we have the addition of a city engineer after several years after not having one. Capital, we would like to construct a storm flow overflow basins in the Belford property parking lot. Net changes to allow for third-party engineering as needed. And of course, you see the typical expenses listed below. Public Works, $2,801 decrease. Primary reason, no significant change. And there's I want to say there's not a lot going on, but it's business as usual next year for Public Works. Parks and Recs, and that's mainly for the office section. So we get nittier and grittier in the Parks, Recs, and Streets and CIP, which we'll talk about next. $120,000 increase for park recs, right-of-way and pool, typical adjustments in payroll and operational expenses. For capital, they have a truck and a zero-turn mower that is part of their mower rotation program. Park utilities, we've added soccer fields. We've also added pickleball courts and Trail to Paris asphalt project. Mowing services, pool chemicals, and for the ARPA funds, they're getting a Commander One Light detector. And if you'd like to ask anyone in Parks and Recs what that is, I would like to know myself. Streets and Highways, Department 46, we have a decrease of $962,000. Primary reason is there's a street and mill overlay project we talked about earlier. 2.2 is coming out of the GO bond, and 1 million is coming out of the reserves, but there will be no general funds used for this program or project. Other expenses, concrete work for sidewalks, curbs and gutters, employee pay and benefits, and other expenses include, of course, fuel, contracted third-party services, concrete work, street and alley repair, and then out of ARPA, they're getting a wheel loader and a hot box reclaimer. Traffic and public lighting, increase of $15,000. Again, primary reasons, employee pay and benefits. They are getting more, hope to get more electronic speed signs so we can put those around town. They've worked very well downtown over this last year. And other expenses include utilities, street lights throughout town, and traffic marking equipment. In the garage, these gentlemen stay extremely busy down there. We have an increase of $76,000. Their capital project is they're getting a truck this year. And other expenses, of course, include tools, utilities, and maintenance and repair expenses. Each go to each independent department. EMS, looking at a $306,000 increase. Primary reason is ambulances aren't cheap, aren't as cheap as they used to be. And capital, we're looking at a supervisor vehicle, a Lucas device, and a Zoll Z-Vent for the 8th ambulance, which is the which was just recently added. Other expenses include annual ambulance rotation, one a year. We have 8 ambulances. Fuel, medical equipment, chemicals, EMS medical director, and service agreement for our medical equipment. Revenues increasing by approximately $320,000, and their capital project will be funded by ARPA, and it is a tablet replacement. Paris Band, we see no increase, no change. It's at $23,050. Library Department, it is a minor increase of $28,000. Their capital is paint and carpet in the children's area, and other expenses. Typical expenses are, of course, books, media, library needs, building maintenance, specifically the roof, and electronic software. General expense, Department 89, increase of $171,000. Primary reason is TERS, LCAD, and airport support. And other expenses include the Visitor Convention Committee, the hotel occupancy tax, and the Health Department, city and county partnership. General expense, IT Department, $88,000 increase, and primary reasons is we've recently moved to Microsoft 365, and we have capital projects, Microsoft Teams room, which you've just seen in the executive chamber, reclassify and create security supervisor with Mr. Dabbs, and computer repairs rotation, communications for online server, and then maintaining security. Airport, we have a just over $23,000 increase. For a capital project, we have a GPU, or a ground power unit, which is helpful in starting airplanes. We have an increase in fuel purchase, but that also is equal to a greater revenue in that same category. And of course, other expenses are fuel, maintenance, and repairs, and small capital projects. And we have a 90-10 opportunity to create a fuel farm using ARPA funds. Warehouse, Department 80, have a small increase of $13,620. The primary reasons, of course, is employee pay and benefits. Water and sewer, increase of $153,649. Primary reasons, employee pay and benefits. Credit card use is expensive, but that's passed back on to the customer. We do have a fee study scheduled for this year with Chris Settle, an additional utility billing clerk. Other expenses are listed below. Water production, Department 82, we have an increase of $635,000. Primary reasons are chemical prices, electricity, and the capital is a filtration plant replacement, water fund, series of annual replacements, cell after cell. I believe this year, Danny, is cell 4. Is that correct? Last year we did, or last one we did, I think, was cell 7, 8. And we have 10 cells total. And then a CLA valve controller. And you see the other expenses from typical office expenses down to SCADA software pumps. Water distribution, Department 83, we have an increase of $78,000 this year. Employee pay and benefits being the primary reason. CIP, Water Department, increase of $189,000. The capital project will be the meter replacement program and a truck. Other expenses included tools, fuel repairs, and service line improvements. Sewer maintenance, we have a decrease of $10,000. No significant change in this department. CIP sewer, an increase of $94,000. The primary reason, again, employee pay and benefits, and then their capital project is a skid steer, which will be purchased using water fund. Wastewater treatment Department 86, not the plant, increase of $238,000. Primary reason is employee pay and benefits, miscellaneous equipment and tools. They are trying to keep an old facility alive until the new one is online. And their capital is a truck, which is being paid with the water fund. Lift station, Department 87, an increase of $119,000. Employee pay, truck, and 3, is it flight pumps? Is that how you say that, Danny? I got flight pumps. And other expenses include electric utility, flow equalization basin, pumps, and motors. Landfill and Sanitation Department 44, increase of $466,000. Landfill fees, employee pay and benefits. Capital is a truck, a capital project is a truck, and you see there are other expenses listed below from fuel, and then the continuation or the continual closure of the Stillhouse landfill location. Conclusion, the proposed 24-25 budget contains an appropriate amount of funding dedicated to addressing those items identified as budget priorities. City Council in the strategic plan, increase in policy pay, or police pay, employee pay and benefits, the street mill and overlay projects, the rising cost in almost every department, capital projects and purchases, the reclassification of personnel and the creation of a new position, maintaining operational services, and the proposed 24 budget, I should say 24-25 budget is in line with the Senate Bill 2. And the next step are up to the City Council. If there are questions, additional information, we will have budget workshops. We will proceed with meetings, scheduled required public hearings. We can have and will have one-on-one meetings. We've already had a few. And staff are prepared to proceed through any steps you wish prior to implementing the charter and statutory steps to complete the budget. I'll ask if City Clerk Janice would read the timeline so you're aware of what the expectations are.
What we have so far is at your next meeting, August the 26th, you would provide any edits to us, any direction that you want, necessary edits. I'm losing my voice. Call a public hearing on the proposed budget, call a public hearing on the proposed tax rate. Then on September the 9th, you would actually have the public hearing on the proposed tax rate and a hearing on the proposed budget, as well as approve an ordinance adopting the budget. Then on September the 10th, we would need to have a special meeting to ratify the property tax rate increase, and to discuss and act an ordinance fixing the tax rate and the tax levy.
All right.
And if you all want to have any special workshops throughout the calendar, we can look at that.
Yes, I was just going to ask, have we thought about a date that we could have a budget workshop? I think that would be beneficial, don't y'all? Yeah, to have a budget workshop where we can kind of go through it line by line, or have any questions. And if council has any questions, you can always reach out to Mr. Vine with your specific questions as well, to get an understanding.
And again, we would like to offer individual meetings, if you'd want, either individually or if you could do groups of two, especially for those of you who've not been on council long and maybe not looked at a department really in depth, line by line, we can do that as well.
All right, any more questions?
And I would, while we're waiting, just like to thank staff for being here this evening. I know this has been a long process, but they have been extremely helpful in putting this together. And also being here in case there are any questions, if they could answer that I could. So thank you, staff.
So I guess the direction coming out of this is to schedule a budget workshop, try to get all of us on board with that. Okay. All right, go ahead.
I would say the sooner the better on your workshops.
Absolutely.
And I'm looking at a calendar for the week of August the 19th, which is next week. Where's Jean? Is that too soon?
No.
Okay. You could schedule them even several days in a row or 2 days that week, and if you don't need it, you don't have to have it. We can cancel it. So Monday is August the 19th, Tuesday the 20th, Wednesday the 21st. I don't know if you all have your calendars.
What does council want to do? I think I'm good on Monday and Tuesday.
The 19th?
Yes, 19th and 20th.
I'm okay with that. Yeah, I'm available.
I think Tuesday is PDC. What, are we talking about 5:30?
If that's what you want to do, 5:30, or if you wanted to start earlier, that's fine.
I'm good with whatever time. So what are we thinking, like a couple hours? And this is only if we need it. The Tuesday is only if we need it.
You could schedule for 2 hours, and if you only need one, you're fine.
So do you want to say 3:30 Tuesday? Is that good?
I can't.
Can't, okay.
Okay, so how does Monday the 19th look for everybody?
That would be
I'm
best,
good.
yes.
Yeah.
Monday, the 19th,
Okay.
yes. At evening?
And the reason you need to know is
So
because
we
you have to
could-
post it, right?
That's correct.
Right.
We'll want to post it, get it all ready by Thursday.
Okay.
And you all just, if you'll tell me a time, is 3 o'clock, 5:30, 4 o'clock?
After 4:30 is best for me.
What about you?
Does that sound good to everybody? Okay,
That
Monday the
Monday.
19th
Monday,
at
the 19th.
4:30?
4:30?
Okay, do you all want to go ahead and schedule another one for that week? And then on Monday, if you finish up, you can decide, hey, we don't need that.
So do
Because,
you,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Because if you wait until Monday and say, hey, we want to have a meeting, the soonest we could probably have another meeting would be Friday. Because if you finish up Monday at 7 o'clock, oh, we want to have a meeting on Thursday at 5, we can't do it because
Yeah.
of the 72 hours.
So it sounds like Tuesday is bad, right?
I can't make it Tuesday, I already have.
Okay. What about Thursday? Just as a meeting if we need it.
I can do Thursday.
5:30?
So everybody can do Thursday at 5:30 as well, and that is on the 22nd.
Yes.
Okay, I'm ready.
Oh, no, I
Nope.
can't. I can't. My mom's turning 90 and we're having a birthday party,
Okay.
so no.
Okay, so we know for sure Monday at 4:30.
I forgot about that. Can't forget that. But you can still schedule it. I don't have to be there. I mean,
Okay.
I'm sure I'll get everything between this week and next week. I'll get everything that I need.
Okay, so we can go ahead and schedule one for Monday, the 19th at 4:30, and then Thursday, the 22nd at, did you all say 5:30?
What time? What time's good with you? 5:30 good? 5:30.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else? This is item 19? Yes, sir. All right, we will go to item 21. Discuss and act on 3 appointments to the Traffic Commission and 1 appointment to the Historic Preservation Commission. Staff?
Okay. As you all know, we've been beating the bushes, asking people to apply for boards, advertising, re-advertising. We've re-advertised twice, and have also done what you all recommended, called some of the applicants that didn't get selected the first and second rounds. And so what we have now is we need to fill those positions, and we actually have people that, from the applicants that we called, or who are interested in serving. And on the Traffic Commission, that's Gloria Day, Linda Van Dever, and Sequoia Bruce. And on the Historic Preservation Commission, that's Millicent Key. And if you all are good with appointing those individuals, then we could take a motion. And then if not, then we can continue to re-advertise.
So I'll make the motion that we appoint Gloria Day, Linda Van Dever, Sequoia Bruce to fill the 3 vacancies on the Traffic Commission, and also appoint Millicent Key to serve as alternate expiration position on the Historic Preservation Commission.
Second.
Second.
Perfect, thank you all.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Passes.
Yay.
Okay, item 22, discuss and act on a resolution appointing 2 members to the 2 alternate positions on the Board of Adjustment. Staff?
Okay, this is the same song and dance as item 21, and we do have 2 interested persons, Angie Briscoe and Jerry Williams, who has never served on a board, and he's brand new. We would ask that you appoint them as well.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Ellis,
Second.
seconded by, we're brain dead.
Putnam.
Ms. Putnam.
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you all.
All right, down to item 23, we will convene into executive session pursuant to section 551-087 of the Texas Government Code. 1, to discuss and deliberate regarding commercial and financial information that the governmental body has received from a business prospect that the governmental body seeks to have locate, stay, or expand in or near the territory of governmental body, and which the governmental body is conducting economic development negotiations. Or 2, to deliberate the offer of a financial or other incentive to a business prospect described by subdivision 1 as follows, Lion's Head. And B, section 551-074 of the Texas Government Code, to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, to wit, city manager. It is 7:35, and we will convene into executive session. We are reconvening into open session at 7:46 PM. And there is no action to be taken on item 23A or B. So now we're down to item 25, consider and approve future events of the city council and/or city staff pursuant to resolution 2004-081. Does anybody have anything that they want to add to a future council meeting? Good?
I don't think so.
Everybody's good? Okay, then we'll go down to item 26, and I won't make that motion today. I'll give it to Mickey.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
All right, second, second. All right, then, so was it motion and second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passed 5-4-0 against.
You opened and closed.